we've just had a couple of reports in some of the key swing states there. Bomb threats, burning of ballot boxes, hyper-vigilance with counting. Is this the US elections that you know?
No election since 2016 has been the U.S. election that we know. The entire Trump era, and we're going on a decade, it's 9 years of Trump at the center of the political arena, really. It's basically changed all the rules of U.S. politics. And this election is different, obviously, from the 2020 election because it's not happening in the middle of a pandemic. That election was, doubly strange. These threats really follow the post-election environment that happened in 2020. So it's something that was expected, and as your report said, that there's been a lot of planning for it. But certainly, it's an unfortunate turn for a country that's very much used to not even questioning its ability to peacefully hand over power to the next president.
We know the biggest prize battleground state is Pennsylvania. It's been reported that Elon Musk's super PAC has been, quote, ballot curing in the final days of the campaign, which is a highly expensive strategy meant to pick up a few additional votes in a razor-thin race. Can you talk a little bit about this strategy and Musk's overall involvement in the election?
Musk he's had a very interesting sort of curve during this election season. Started sort of supporting Trump, kind of quietly supporting Trump, and he became, over time, Trump's closest supporter. Some even joked that he was more of a running mate to Trump than J.D. Vance was. He spent a lot of his money. He has a lot of money to spend on these sort of questionable, sometimes at times Democrats wondered, including the governor of Pennsylvania, Shapiro, wondered if Musk might be committing electoral felonies. In this search to really excite the Trump base and get people out to vote. It's been a very sharp contrast with the Harris strategy of sort of chipping away at demographic groups that might have been discouraged from voting for Trump, like Republican women, like traditional Republicans, and like some Latino men and obviously some Latinas as well, who might have been discouraged from the entire political process. So it's a contrast that it'll be very interesting to see how it pans out in the end, especially in Pennsylvania.
In fact, just on that note, polling suggests that several key groups of voters are getting a little less democratic, Trump making inroads with Black, Latino and young voters, while Democrats have a long-standing advantage in cities normally, but that's being eroded. And now they're improving their standing with white voters and older voters who used to be more Republican. Are these signs of a bigger voter realignment, do you think?
I think voters are consistently realigning themselves. Following elections, we tend to try to put people into pockets because it's so much easier to analyze voting that way. With Latino voters, for instance, there was a realignment in the 2000s toward Obama, but they had come from a time of 40% plus support for George W. Bush. So there's a feeling that certain groups of voters can only fit in certain boxes, and I think that's the wrong way to look at voters, because if that were the case, we wouldn't really have elections, right? And voters are winnable. Certain groups tend to like or dislike some parties more consistently. There was blue-collar workers for Democrats throughout the 20th century, mid-20th century. There were black voters. Black voters are still very loyal to the Democratic Party, uncomfortable with a lot of what the Republican Party says. But parties often make the mistake to think that is not that's set in stone, and voters move around, as is their right, to their convenience.
All right, really interesting to get your insight. Thank you for that, Rafael Bernal, for us.